know me. I will just listen to. I've listened to you over the last few years. I've been into it approximately.
Yeah,
Non-duality about,
yeah.
I'd say about 7 years.
Oh, nice, nice.
And I flip flop about.
Yeah,
When I'm feeling okay. Let's say when I'm feeling okay, I can get into that realm where am I in it or is it in me? I feel like it's all inside me. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah,
I think, oh yeah, something's happening here. And then when I go off it, I think it's a load of bollocks.
yeah,
But then I'll come back to it, blah, blah, blah. And I listen to too many, I suppose, too many people. But when
yeah,
I hear you talking, sometimes when people ask you a question, you come back with it, and it's so not what I'd expect. I thought, well, she's not coming from the same place as me. I get what you're saying nearly all the time. I thought, well, somewhat's going on with this lass. I think it's
yeah.
distrust
Yeah,
a little. Don't
yeah,
trust.
and so what happens is that will be everywhere in your life, that distrust. It's not to do with
Yeah,
non-duality. It will be appearing everywhere. And so when you're more contracted, so when you flop and you're not in that more open space and you feel more contracted, just your old issues will come up more intensely and they'll get projected onto non-duality. So there'll be a
yeah.
distrust of your experience. There'll be a distrust of the person speaking. It will do the same things. But distrust is actually a deeper issue than the actual feeling of distrust. The distrust comes from deep down, just the feeling of insecurity. It comes from separation, that you feel separate and
Mhm.
inside this body. And it's an insecurity about being alive, feeling that you've got to control your life, which is untrue.
But I'm trying not to. I do try not to control, but
I wouldn't even bother trying not to. Like, I
just
wouldn't, just be as you are in every
oh,
moment. And if you feel like you're the controller, then just let that out. Because if you try not to, then you're almost fighting the initial urges. I would just recognize the urges that are coming up, and I would try to interfere as little as you can, but
possible.
just recognize what they're saying and what they're doing, and just recognize that, like, so when you have that distrust, if you could just take 5 or 10 minutes alone, so when you're actually feeling the suffering, to just sit alone and realize that underneath that distrust you feel an insecurity about being alive. It doesn't mean that you have to trust every situation. It doesn't mean that you now have to
No,
go, what's that thing when you jump off a mountain with wings, like
base base jumping.
base jumping? Yeah, it's not like
I'd
like you,
like to do that. I think it'd
actually
be
I would like to do it too. But I don't know if I'd actually jump. Once I went on this
no, I don't
parachute
either. But
thing, and
I
when
don't.
I actually got there, it was really hard jumping. When you're actually faced with the edge, you're like, can I go back down, please?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, so I don't mean that you have to like trust that sort of thing or like shut your eyes on the motorway in your car. It's not
No,
it's
no, no, I know what you mean.
it's not that sort of trust, because it's actually a very good functioning thing to, in a functional way, to not trust everything as a human body. But
Well,
I mean this as the absolute, and I mean it as this identity which suffers unrealistically because of it. Like it suffers, when there's not danger in front of it, it suffers a lot of time because of this, and it's a repetitive issue that comes up. But I had a friend once who, when he got into this subject, I love all these stories of awakening, and he got into this subject, and he decided that he had to put it to the test, this trust thing. And so he used to go to the edge of the road and he would shut his eyes, and then he would like cross the road with his eyes shut, or he'd walk round to his neighbors. He lived in the forest, and he'd walk round to his neighbors through the forest, but he would shut his eyes and see if life could guide him there. And then finally something happened, and he realized that that was taking it in the wrong way, like that was taking it in the relative way, like rather than seeing that the suffering actually comes from the identification with being someone, and there comes the distrust. And it comes, when you're contracted, it's not always there, those thought processes and those feelings. It comes when you feel like you're in here, and then your particular patterns come, your particular
well, I do.
ideas.
I do try to let go and see what happens. I
Yeah,
let go, let God type of thing. I do.
yeah,
I've been living that way for about 30 years, on and off.
yeah, yeah. It's the
But I
best
think that
way.
I think there is trust. Although I've always been a bit very insecure, really, but
Yeah,
dependent on people. I'm not
yeah,
so much today. I don't think. But I did get into a church early ago when I first sobered up
yeah,
30 years ago, and I went into it hook, line, and sinker.
yeah,
And then it just went, well, I realised to me it was a load of nonsense I were into eventually, you know what I mean? I hope there's no one listening gets upset about that, but
Yeah,
really
yeah,
what a load of bollocks. And after that, I've had to sort of work my way through to normality, if you like.
yeah, I
And
can
I look back
imagine.
at that and I think, whoa, how did I fall for that one? You know,
But how long were you in it for?
I was out about 4 years, but
Oh,
after
boy.
after the first 12 months, it was sort of, I was starting to see things that I thought, that's not true, that's not true, you know, well, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. And eventually I
yeah.
just come away.
It's the same with anything, and it would be the
So I'm
same.
scared of falling for this one, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
well, I mean, that's very wise. I mean, like in one way, it is a wise thing to have, but in another way, the identity slips in and then you suffer over
Mm.
it. But it is because, because ultimately what non-duality is the letting go of all ideas, including the idea of non-duality. And this
Mm.
really is about recognizing God in yourself. Now, God's a really dramatic word, and we can change it
Yes,
to
I'm not keen on it. I'd rather have higher power or, like you said,
yeah,
existence. Life, I like life.
existence, yeah, life, and really seeing that it's not you that's looking out of your body, and this is an experiential thing, but not an experiential thing for the person, because the person is always being experienced, but it's a movement back to that stillness and really being grounded in that. And the thing is when that first happens, there has to be a listening to other speakers about it, or there has to be a reading, or there has to be an understanding of it, or something in order to resonate with that and see
I
that. But
think I understand what you're talking about. There's
yeah,
no goes over my head, I don't think, but
yeah.
intellectually, it's not. It is.
And but what should happen in non-duality is the more it's spoken about and it's seen and it becomes really clear, then there is a moving away from the teacher, there is a chucking away of the teacher, because
Right.
the teacher's only needed to point it out, and then you don't need to live. It doesn't need to be an organization or a religion which you base your life in. Often these things exist because people are getting confused about the relative and the absolute. Like they feel lost in their life. They get into the subject and then they feel lost in their life. But the reason that they feel lost in their life is because there is a massive change happening. Like you begin to hear this subject and you're transforming from being an identified person to something boundless. So therefore, all your old ideals and goals will change. So then people feel lost after they've got into this subject for a period of time, and they want to follow someone. And this is where they then want their life to be all about this subject. So this is when the guru comes in, and then often they want to give up their life and go and live with the guru or go and work in the guru or the church organization. But it's not, that's not really the answer. It's that there is a transformation happening and all your ideals are changing. So when you used to think that money was important or alcohol was important or love was important, that's beginning to smash, and then people have this overwhelming sense of meaninglessness. But that's just a phase, and often in that phase though they go and give up everything and then live with these organizations or teachers or gurus.
I won't be doing that.
Yeah. You've already done it once, but for 4 years,
I think
when
I've
you
done that once
yeah, but
before.
you
Yeah.
said it. You said it once. You said that when you said it. I was thinking you were going to say like 25 years. You were like, I'm a fool for having fell for it for so
Fell
long.
for
But
that
four
long. Yeah.
years,
It's a long time.
that's not so long.
It is when you're puddled.
I was watching one recently where people have been involved in science. Well, I shouldn't really say
Oh,
exactly who it is, but and they had been involved for 30 years, and then they kind of came to the conclusion because they weren't allowed to see their family anymore that it wasn't true what was being told to them. But no thought process is true. And even though it sounds like I'm giving you lots of extra concepts to play with, I hope at the end of the day I'm also taking them all away. Because in one way, I have to present new concepts for you to
hmm.
chuck out your old ones, but then they're not true either. So, yeah.
Very enlightening. I do. I get what you say. I do. I get a lot of it. I think, and
Yeah.
sometimes I think, is something really happening here, or what? I think a lot of it too is because I live in Yorkshire, in England.
Yeah.
There's very little to nobody in
Yeah, I can
Yorkshire.
imagine it's very little. Actually, do you know
And
what?
that's I think I miss that really. Yeah.
There is some stuff happening up north. There used to be a group.
Used to do.
Yeah.
I've seen Jeff Foster there, but it's closed down now.
Now it
It's
closed down. Oh
yeah.
yeah, so you have to go down to London if you want anything.
A lot
Yeah.
it's down London. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought about going down to see Spira, Rupert Spira.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to have a
He
place
talks
in
sort of when he's
Birmingham.
talking, does it? I mean, it's brilliant, but it's so intricate. God almighty, but he could confuse me. But
Yeah,
he talk. They all talk some sort of sense of his nonsense, what they
yeah,
say. But,
yeah.
I
And
just,
and
I'm
it's more to
infatuated.
do,
I like the stuff. It makes so much.
yeah, and it's more, but it's
It's
more,
not this God in the sky stuff. It's so
yeah,
practical. It's so
yeah,
close to you. I recognise it. I mean, I've only got this moment here. I sort of always recognise that.
yeah,
I watch it. I
totally.
can watch all the thoughts and the feelings. I say, yeah, well, that's right. And I can
Yeah.
sometimes get there for a split second, then
But I
it's gone back
think,
to Ed.
but I think the trust thing is more to do with you maybe, that you don't trust that you'll ever get there. And then
That's
ultimately
true. Yeah,
you won't get there because you don't exist. But
I
in
know.
another
Yeah, that's
way,
yeah.
like what I'm talking to now, like it goes through your filter of who you think you
Hmm.
are, but actually it's that stillness which is listening, and it's that freedom which is listening, and it is your home. And I think the distrust most probably comes in the sense that the separate person feels like he won't get this, and that when the suffering comes, it's like, what is this nonsense? And I think it's
That's
more maybe directed towards you, like it's more your lack stuff, which is really juicy and great stuff to get into, because that's the core issues of being separate. And that's where it screws up most people's relationships and life, is that they feel not lovable, or they feel vulnerable and insecure.
well, Jeff Foster. I remember seeing him, and I was in a bit of a depression at the time, and he said, "What an invitation!" I thought, "What's he on about?" But next time I go into one, I think, "Well, take notice of that now." And I try, but it's just, I think I'm just coming out of one now. Like I said, I thought, well, phone, and now you got out of it. Now you got it
Yeah.
together. So I'm here anyway.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful, like saying,
Unfortunately,
but saying that it's an invitation, because it's true. If it didn't hurt, we wouldn't investigate, because we're creatures of comfort. And if we could just get the tiniest little bit of pleasure out of something, we'd rather than do that than investigate what our actual experience is. And so in a way, it is a huge invitation when we suffer. But the mentality is like, no, get it
so
away.
when I'm low, then what should I do with that one?
When you what?
When I'm low, I do get
Yeah.
low. I'm a depressive. What do I do with that bit?
Well, on practical, so there's two elements. There's the investigation side, and so when you feel depressive, there's the practical stuff that you can do for the person, but then
Yeah.
on the other side, I would investigate your sensations. So I'd investigate, and you won't be able to do this because sometimes when you feel depressed, you just want to close everything out and watch TV or not be involved in
Yeah.
anything. But if you
More
can,
of a feeling. It
yeah,
sets off the mood. It's like a mood.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh
it's a
God.
mood. Yeah. But if
Yeah.
you go into the body and just explore where those sensations are happening, and be inquisitive to see if they are saying anything, and see what they're saying, and see if there's anything that you're believing about the present experience.
Mm.
So because that mood, that hum, that underlying sense of depression, I reckon that it will more than likely be a sense of, underneath it will be a sense of, I don't want to be experiencing this. I don't want to be alive
Definitely.
experiencing this.
Definitely. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and just explore where you feel it in the body, and explore how it colors everything and your habits around it. And I'm not talking about a destination of where to get to, but
No.
just explore it and be open to just once a day, if you can do it once a day when you feel like that, an exploration of the bodily sensations. And don't try to get anywhere, just welcome it in, just sit with it and
Yeah, I've
allow it
tried
to
to
come
just
in.
accept it. That's how it
Yeah,
is. Fair enough. If you want to go to sleep, go to sleep. Just
yeah,
go with it.
yeah.
So I think,
And then
like I
on the
say,
practical level, there's things that you can do, but maybe there's other things on the internet which you could look up about the exercise, the eating bananas, the eating cashew nuts. I'm sure you know all those sorts of things.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so hard to do exercise when that mood comes on. But
You can do them when you're coming out of it.
yeah, yeah,
Usually,
yeah,
it does its thing and then it goes.
yeah,
I've learned to accept that, if you like.
yeah.
That's a movement for me, but it's still so crap when you're going through
Yeah, it is. It's
it.
really intense. But I kind of, this is quite extreme what I'm going to say. And,
Oh no.
and I'm not a doctor, and I've never done scientific research into this. But I kind of feel like all of this stuff comes from separation. Like there can be
Hmm.
low moods, but that depressive mood comes, Like there can be low moods or low energy. So you might have that in your body, that you have low energy and you have
I
periods of
think it's
low
clinical,
energy.
yeah, I think it is, yeah. But
So that's the chemical imbalance side. But that depressive side to it comes from, I think, the identification side of it, like that really darkness,
mm,
like
yeah,
that sense of feeling meaningless, that sense of
fear,
the
fearfulness,
fear, yeah.
yeah,
And the sense of not wanting to be alive or not wanting to experience it. That, I think, is the identification with that depressive mood, because we're taught in our society that happiness is excitement, which isn't happiness at all, at
hmm,
all. And we're taught that we've always got to be a certain way and we've got to be doing things. And so when you have these chemical imbalances and you have this huge lack of energy or drive to do anything, then the person becomes very negative and beats itself up, which gives it an extra kick. But I don't think that it will solve that level if you've got high energy and then low energies, or just really low energies. But that really awful side to depression, I think, comes from the absolute rejection of it from that because you've always been
rejection of the depression itself.
yeah, you've always been told that you're not allowed to have lack of energy, that you've got to be a doer, and that your meaning is doing.
Right.
Your
But that's
meaning.
supposed to be a bit, is that a bit more positive? You know, that I think it's half helped. I've stopped trying to fight through it now.
Yeah.
Just go, when I feel better, I'll start throwing some of them. That's, I think, is that good? Do
Sorry?
you think? Is that good, do you think?
What's
Am I on
that?
the right track?
I missed what
What
you
I'll do is, are you ready?
Yeah.
When I'm really poorly,
Yeah.
I'll just go with it.
Yeah.
And I try not to worry. That's how it is, too. When it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
And then that's my acceptance of it these
Yeah.
days, best I can.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. I think that's really fantastic. Like total, and you've done nothing wrong for it to appear. It just is something that will come, and it's something that will go by itself. And the only added thing is, I would just explore, if you can, what's actually going on inside your
Oh,
body.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
but the other side of it, the acceptance, because what's normally happening is, on the unconscious level, is that you're rejecting it, and you're telling yourself, not even consciously, that there's something bad and wrong about you for having this. And like this is the identification level.
Yeah, well, the self-worth just drops out of the, yeah, it's
Yeah,
straight away when you start feeling,
yeah,
when I start feeling no
yeah.
self-worth at all, it goes. But anyway, that's not what, I didn't think that's what I phoned you up for.
Well, this is what happened.
Talked a long time, haven't I?
Oh, that was nice
Been
speaking
lovely
with you,
talking to you
Steve.
anyway. Nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Give
yeah.
me a ring again. I'll
Thank you for calling.
phone in again sometime. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.